Thanks for joining me. I'm meteorologist Brian Shields. Just right off the bat, I want to talk about this. An earthquake yesterday, again, near Roatan off the coast of Belize and Honduras. It was a 5.5, which is a moderate earthquake. Again, fortunately, it was in the water, but it was felt, of course. So I just want you to know that I'm keeping an eye on there is a fault line that runs right through here. I'm keeping an eye on any seismic activity. If there are any aftershocks and things like that, let me know in the comments as well. But I'm on top of that, watching a course across the Caribbean. There's been a few quakes. Nothing on the major side, fortunately, over the last few weeks, but things have been a little bit shakier, of course. So I'm on top of it for you on this channel. I'll keep you posted. I do this channel for safety, so I'll be monitoring that. Now, here we are in the Caribbean, and you see this big comma shape up here. This is a storm system. That is the front. That's the front that is going to actually dive down very close to into North Mexico, over by the Yucatan of Mexico, I should say, and then back toward parts of Cuba. So I want to break this down further as this front moves in, and there will be a dip in temperatures. Could be our last dip in temperatures of the season, because again, we're starting to march through the month, so things will start to heat up before we know it even more so. But here's a look at some of that colder weather. This is today up in the United States. So you see that here, this kind of shading here, that magenta shading. And look, I'm just going to take you out in time into the weekend. Look how it dives down, and you see it here. Now, the front itself will sit somewhere around here by the time we get into Sunday and Sunday night. So still a wait and see on just how much of that cool air gets into the northwestern sections of the Caribbean, but at least some cool nights on the way, a change in the winds. I want to get to the winds in a second, so hang on for that. I'll dive into that so you can really see how that front evolves. So this is what's going on. Now, this is why it's going to actually move a little more into the direction of the Caribbean. So the main part of the storm system is up by the Great Lakes, okay? But that is going to continue to lift away. So usually that wouldn't have any impact on us, and it won't. But what's happening down here is the tail end of this, it's actually going to develop into kind of a new storm system. It kind of gets cut off. It gets separated. So you have one spin here, that's going to leave. But down here, as you work your way into the Gulf of Mexico, it's going to kind of spin up an area of low pressure storm system, not tropical or anything like that in nature. So we'll have the center of this kind of storm system over here, and that will allow since it's a little bit more to the south versus way up there, that will allow the front, and you see the tail end of it right here, moving through the Gulf of Mexico. That'll push it into the northwestern Caribbean as we get into the weekend. So kind of interesting that you have one storm system, but it's actually going to break apart, and we're going to see this spin, this part of it here, develop. By the way, there was severe weather in Mississippi and Louisiana yesterday and last night. So, of course, we're thinking of them with that. So let me bring you back to this. And here's the front in here today. So this is by 4 o'clock this afternoon. You see it right there. And we'll see how that develops. Now, we have that easterly flow. So Haiti, a spotty shower, but mainly dry. Dominican Republic, hit or miss one. Puerto Rico, St. Kitts and Nevis, we could have a shower too. Trinidad, we may get one or two, Trinidad and Tobago, but no washout or anything like that. Although it would be nice to get some rain. Guyana, Suriname, some scattered showers, but there's the front. So you see that there. And this is also important because it's going to kick up the seas, which is important if you have any of those interest on the waters, which a lot of us do. But you see the front here. This is by Friday at 3 o'clock. So you see how there wasn't a lot of rain, and now there is. By the time we get into late tomorrow, that's because the front is starting to build up. So we'll be watching it dive down. Jamaica tomorrow, chance of a passing shower, still kind of a low chance, but as we go out in time, this front will work its way a little bit closer. And then by Sunday into Monday, the rain chance in the northeastern Caribbean will start to get higher. So this is Saturday, and there it is, what I was just talking about. You see it Saturday afternoon, that front gets stronger, or at least the storm system builds right there, and that allows the tail end of the front by the time we get into Saturday to already creep into, say, the Yucatan of Mexico, and Belize, very close to Cuba, starting to work into Cuba, and then it will kind of nudge a little bit closer to the Cayman Islands by the time we get into Sunday and into Monday. Now, as promised, here are those winds, and this is kind of what we're looking at on the wind tracker. You see this pocket of winds here. Things are kind of, we know in northern Colombia, there's been some erosion and some problems because the waters have been so high, which sometimes happens here. Things kind of build up here, especially with fronts that are coming in here. So with that easterly flow, St. Lucia, Barbados, Dominica, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Grenada. But you see here, the arrows here are coming out of the north. So this is by the time we get into Saturday at 4 o'clock. So we start to get that northerly flow. So the front's right about here. Elsewhere, Guadeloupe, Martinique, we have that easterly flow, but there's that northerly flow that comes in all the way down to Honduras, even a hint of a northeasterly flow in Nicaragua by the time we get into Saturday afternoon, and then very close to the Cayman Islands. So still wait and see just how much it nudges over toward Jamaica. So Jamaica, we're going to be on the borderline once again, but there are the seas, and that's important because, again, we have some dangerous water in spots. You see that yellow, that's about 4 meters, so you're looking at about 13, even 14 feet in spots, so causing all sorts of problems here. And as you get north of Puerto Rico, north of the British and U.S. Virgin Islands, and near Turks and Caicos, again, higher seas. So extra caution, please, with those seas that have been building. They get kind of rocky this time of year. But looking ahead, look at Belize. Now, before the front, winds will be out of the east. After the front, they turn out of the northwest. And look what that does. Today, 82 degrees Fahrenheit, 28 degrees Celsius. Sunday, 77 degrees Fahrenheit, and that makes a big difference. Even though it's kind of a small difference, you know how it feels. It does make a difference. 25 degrees Celsius, but by Sunday night, we're back down into the 60s, near 19 degrees Celsius, kind of like where we were a couple weeks ago with some of these fronts that move by. But Jamaica on the edge of it. It may stay just to the north or move in. Winds don't change a lot. Southeast to start, front gets close, still out of the south, but there is at least a slight change in some of the temperatures. 88 degrees today. Monday, since it's going to take a little longer to get there, Monday about 84 degrees. But either way, in Jamaica, heads up on this, a higher chance of rain on Monday. So Monday, with that front pressing closer, even if the temperatures don't change too much, there'll be a higher chance of getting some wet weather early next week. So watching that front moving and building in the Gulf of Mexico, some cooler weather in at least the northwestern Caribbean by the time we get into the weekend, starting Saturday into Sunday near Belize, working its way toward Cayman Islands and Jamaica and Cuba. The higher rain chance Sunday into Monday. So I'll watch out for that in subsequent videos. And then some cool nights ahead, especially depending on your elevation. If you're in one of those typical cool spots, you'll be noticing some subtle, not for all of us, but some subtle changes across especially the Western Caribbean. But the choppy seas does have my attention in parts of the Caribbean and the Atlantic. So I'll keep you posted on that. We'll watch the front together. Leave those comments. I'll try to get to those throughout the day. Have a wonderful rest of your day.